everybody, and welcome again to another edition of the Spartan Sports Report. Sam and I are joined tonight by a guy we see kind of often in November, December, January, and February every year. Kerry Brown, head coach of the Spartans basketball team. Welcome, Kerry.
Thank you. Good to be here again, guys.
Glad to have you.
Before we get into your particular sports, we want to talk a little bit about what's coming up this week at CHS. Today, Monday, with all the rain, baseball and softball were scheduled. I'll say it that way because I'm sure wet fields are preventing any games being played.
Pretty miserable here on Monday night.
Yes, yes.
But it's going to get better later in the week.
Yes. Tuesday, girls tennis will be at South Dearborn. The track and field will go to Rushville. Wednesday, the girls tennis will be meeting Oldenburg Academy on the new tennis courts here at CHS. 5 o'clock start time for folks that'd like to stop by and watch the girls. On Thursday, the softball team will be at Richmond, and the baseball team is scheduled to go at Newcastle. On Friday, baseball at Rushville. Doubleheader, the boys golf at Greensburg, and on Saturday, boys golf at Indy Chichard, and the softball team will be at South Dearborn for a doubleheader on Saturday. So hopefully we'll get all those sports in.
We hope so. We hope so. And they should after tonight, after Monday night.
Well, the forecast looks good.
Yes, it does. So,
Kerry, a memorable season. Thank you, and your coaches and your team.
You're welcome. It was just as memorable and fun for the coaches, and I'm sure the players would echo the same sentiments. It was neat what was going on around here this winter, and we've had pretty good support from the community, but it was just great. And the top was been blown off some of the gymnasiums up in Southport here at the Spartan Bowl, and it is. There's a lot of memories were created this winter.
21 wins on the season. That's been a long time since we've had that, and a career high for you.
Yeah, and I probably, if I think real hard, maybe 17 was the most that I've ever been a part of as a coach. And, people told me, and I kind of forget now how long it's been since the Connersville team had won that many games. I don't even remember now. I know I probably referred to it when we had our awards banquet at the end of the year, but it's been a long time for that amount of success. And then also, winning the sectional, I guess first 4A one that's been won at Connersville, and it's been a long time since Connersville's won a sectional as well. So, our kids have a lot of, memories that they created this year, both for the community and for themselves, and hopefully we can keep it rolling a little bit, and we return quite a few players. We're going to miss a couple of those guys, but hopefully we'll do a good job as coaches, and the kids will do a good job improving, and we can do it again next year. Wouldn't that be great?
That would be great. And it's something that I've noticed over the years, Coach, that when we have success, then some of the younger kids, they get more interested. They come to the bowl, they see it full, and it helps in the downgrades as kids maybe work harder as they're coming up through the ranks.
We already started some workouts with our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and our numbers were really good. Again, it was just for kids that weren't already in track or golf at the middle school level, or if they were rained out, they were welcome to come. And our numbers have been good there. We had our meeting last week on Friday for people interested in playing next year, high school kids, and we had a real good turnout again, people that are interested in playing again next year. So I think it does create that enthusiasm and that buzz up and down the program. But you saw that in the stands with the middle school kids kind of chiming in with the high school kids in the cheer block, and it does. I think it carries over, and hopefully we'll have great participation. We got camp coming up here at the end of the year. We've got workouts this summer. There's a lot to do between now and next season. There are no guarantees. I was listening to an NBA game last night coming back from Bloomington watching Tyler Belps play, and it was a team that had been in the playoffs last year. They're not going to make it this year, and that's what one of the things the commentators were talking about is, there are no guarantees. So, we've got to. It's nice. This year was nice and it was great, but at some point in time, you have to put it away and start getting ready for next year. And we'll be back in the gym next week with our high school guys starting our workouts.
It's a year-round nearly a year round?
You know, they've had a little bit of time off. We gave them probably an extra week, maybe 2 than we normally would have, because we played an extra week, practiced an extra week. But most of them, a lot of them have already started the AAU stuff. So it is. And we're not encouraging kids to be year-round athletes. We've got kids that are playing baseball and running track right now. And, you know, they play soccer and football in the fall. But I always tell kids and encourage them through their freshman year, I think you need to be a 3-season athlete. And then because of the demands by all the sports and all the coaches, and it's tough to be a 3-sport athlete. Chandler Graves is going to be one this year. You know, he's soccer, basketball, and golf. But you don't see very many 3-sport athletes anymore in you know, today's era. And a lot of them end up going with 1. But I still think there's room to be a 2-season athlete and get everything done you need to for your coaches and in the off season.
This group of young boys, how did you get them to play so well together, to be so unselfish, and to like each other like they did?
You know, I said this, I think the last 2 years, our kids, and I think there was some carryover from the previous year, you know, winning the conference and then getting beat in the sectional championship game. A lot of those things that we did the year before, the kids realized were important. And as coaches, you know, we emphasize those things. You know, we emphasize having a positive attitude and working hard and caring about one another, having each other's back. And on offense, you know, we're always talking about making the extra pass, being unselfish. And defensively, we try to play the same way. You know, you have to, you know, you are one-on-one as a defender, but it's with help. And, you know, we always give them messages like, you know, when we get scored on, they didn't score on one guy, they scored on all 5 of us. So I think probably it's what we emphasize. Kids buy in. You know, there's 2 ways you can go. You can buy in or not buy in. And all we've tried to do is reinforce the good and the positive things that have happened. And, you know, the proof's in the pudding, so to speak, when you're doing those things and you're doing them the right way. Usually you get rewarded with wins. And not always do you get rewarded with championships, and that's why it was neat and special this year, because, you know, we knew and we've known that we're doing things the right way, and we finally got rewarded with a pretty good championship with the sectional championship, and then obviously also winning the conference. So, you know, it's how we practice, Fran. It's what we emphasize, and then there's got to be a buy-in by the kids. And I also think we've had good leadership, and again, the coaches aren't back in the locker room. And I've said this before, this might be one of the things I've realized as a coach, but whoever's leading back in that locker room when the coaches aren't around, that's what kind of team you're going to have. And if you got kids that are on board and their leaders are on board and they're re-emphasizing what the coaches believe is important, then they're doing those same things. And we've been fortunate from that standpoint to have really good leadership.
So a senior has to set the example for the younger kids.
Doesn't have to be. Tyler Billups was a captain his junior year, and then as a senior, last year with Ty Miller and Andrew Stein. And, you know, some kids don't want that attention. And I usually am the guy that picks our captains, and just because I pick them doesn't always mean that they're going to be a good leader. Sometimes I'm wrong. Or they don't want to be the leader and the guy out front of everybody. And there's different ways of leading. There's leading by example, and there's leading in words and in spirit. So there's different ways to lead. But I guess, you know, when I look for our captains, is I'm looking for the guys that are committed and dedicated, and who I think put the team first. And then usually there's a hierarchy from seniors on down. Normally we don't put that kind of pressure on our freshmen and sophomores, but as you become a junior and a senior, then, you know, as coach, and I'm looking at, you know, who I think should be representing us out there. And, you know, normally we send 2 or 3 guys out there to be captains. You know, you could probably send 7 guys out there at times, but I think probably 2 or 3 guys is enough to get it done. And but the other guys can also lead. And we talk to our kids as they're growing up. In our camp we've been in our workouts with our middle school kids about the buddy system. And if you're a good teammate, you know, you're telling that teammate of yours, and you may not be a captain, but if you see him doing something wrong, it's okay for you to tell him, and if you see him doing something right, it's okay for you to encourage him. And we just call it the buddy system, and you know, we probably don't use that enough or refer to it enough, but our kids have heard that mentioned to them about you know, opening your mouth and telling kids when they're doing something the right way, and telling them if they're doing it the wrong way. And it's not to be mean, it's just about improvement.
It's my observation this year that this team didn't get flustered, that they were able to come from behind many times, and they always seemed to keep their cool. But I also had said and had talked to Dave on the air about it, that I thought that it was a reflection of the head coach, that I observe you not getting upset, not getting loud, but getting the message across. And I think that carried over into your kids.
You know, I've thought a little bit about that since the season's been over with, because there are possessions in games that are very critical and key. There's some early that don't matter as much. You know, we try to stress every possession, but realistically, when you're down 6 or 8 points, if you don't have a great offensive possession, or if you don't get a stop that time and it goes to 8 to 10 points, the game's over. And we were there a couple times this past year because, you know, thinking back, reflecting, I was thinking about Newcastle and Muncie Central games like that, and, you know, why we were able to win those games when we were down. And, you know, we may have been down as much as 10 or 12 points, but JD is really good at this. JD is usually the guy that's in my ear. I'm one that want to save my timeouts for the end. But JD's good about, you know, this is critical, this is crucial, we need a timeout right here. And usually we responded and came out and either got a score or got a stop, or both, which is great. And that was, you know, sometimes you don't see it maybe if you're just the casual fan in the stands, but there were key possessions in games when it could have went either way, and our kids listened and executed. And I thought it had an impact, a bearing on the outcomes of some of those games that you're referring to.
Right.
So I don't know if I answered your question, but I have thought about that, Sam, and I, you know, I thought back to, you know, when we've called timeout, and usually it's JD in my ear saying, we need a great possession, we need a timeout, we need to talk to the kids about this, because just an okay possession sometimes might be the difference between winning and losing a game. Especially at that situation when the game's, you know, weighing.
Right. Right, and we saw it happen several times.
Yeah.
That the game turned.
It did.
After that timeout.
It did.
You have a favorite game from this past season?
It probably would have to be sectional championship game. You know, that's the one.
Yes.
You know, we had to get there with the semifinal game against Greenfield. You know, I don't know if people realize this, but I don't know if, and I'd have to go back and check. I don't think Greenfield or Newcastle shot a free throw in either one of those games. I don't think they did. I'll go back and double check it. If they did, it wasn't very many. And we shot 20-some in each of those. And, you know, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago, winning some of those games, not fouling people, not giving them, you know, layups, free throws, uncontested step-in threes are the easiest shots in the game. And we tried to eliminate the layup. We tried to eliminate all of them, but we did a great job, especially at different times, not putting the opponents on the free throw line, and that's discipline, not reaching, hacking, slapping, and putting them on the free throw line. And then offensively, you know, protecting the ball, making your free throws late when you need to. And those things happened in those games.
Yes.
You know, there was probably one other thing we did that helped us win, especially the Greenfield game. You know, we just inverted what we were doing offensively. The kids picked it up really well, really easily. And it wasn't something we'd practiced a whole lot, not very much at all, but it was one of those adjustments, things that we as coaches thought we wanted to do, saw, and the kids carried it out. And it helped us win big games.
Layups and free throws. Once you got the lead, that's I know that was key.
Yeah, and you know, there was a coach a lot smarter than me one time said the team that gets the ball to the basket area, which is the lane and around the rim, is going to win the majority of the times. And if you think about it, we got to shoot all those free throws. We shot very few threes in the sectional. We won 2 big games, and then we didn't do that in the regional. Obviously, the length that they had at the rim, but you still can't abandon that attack. And, as a coach, 30 years, but that'll be something if we come across that again this next season. Hopefully I'll be a little bit better and smarter, and we won't totally abandon that. And I'm not saying we abandoned it, but we need to do a better job of executing in that situation, getting it there and then maybe kicking it back outside. But we didn't get it into the basket area enough in that regional game. I was very proud of what we did defensively, especially Brunk, 8 points. If you'd have said that before the game, we would have thought we'd have won it, and we had a chance. But, yeah, that's just an old basketball adage. Whoever gets the ball in the basket area is going to win the majority of the times.
And you think about that game against Southport on their floor. But once again, we had more people there than they did, had a great fan base. But you put yourself in a position, your kids did. We were down 1 going into the fourth quarter. Had we been able to get over that hump, it could have been layups and free throws again. Once you control that lead, and coming home that night and watching Terre Haute play, I thought, man, we could have beat this Terre Haute team.
Yep. Would have, could have, should have. Had we got to that championship game, the way that Southport dispatched to them, we could have been playing another weekend. But yeah, you're right. In terms of what we could have or should have done in the morning games. I thought we had the lead. Officials took that away. 2 of the officials, I don't think we're going to call anything. 1 guy did, so there was some indecision there on their part. But then they made a couple plays that were the difference makers. The athlete Scruggs, we're out in front of everybody on transition, getting ready to cut it to 2, and his athleticism allowed him to block it off the backboard. And then he made a 3. When it was a 3-point game, he made a 3. We're a little bit soft on a closeout, and that put it up to 6, and that was a key play. So they stepped up and made a couple plays, and the things that we had done in terms of making plays, they did. Both on the defensive end, they got a block, and then offensively, they made that shot. But, we were right there, had to come out and chase them. They made the free throws and got a breakaway dunk there late. But I'm just proud of our kids and then our community, the way they supported us.
Franklin County game was important. The conference, won the conference with that game. A rivalry, that has to be one of your favorites too.
Well, the thing is, the crowd is what made it. It was a conference game, and helps us win the conference. But it was just neat to see all the people in the bowl.
Yes.
It was like opening night, and it was like the previous tournaments when I'd come in here on the opposing bench. The atmosphere and the number of people in the bowl was like that, and it was definitely a special evening. So. Again, hopefully we can duplicate this next year. We have some big crowds and we travel well, and we're having a lot of fun and excitement next year. But, those things are earned, they're not given. So, like I mentioned, we'll get back in the gym starting next week.
You handled the rivalries pretty good. Union County, Rushville, Franklin County, Richmond. Quite a season.
Sweep. Is that what you're saying?
Twice against Newcastle.
And those were big games. Both of those were on the road.
Yes.
And they had played really well, especially the second time. They had a good season. It'll be another really good year next year, I think, in terms of the teams on our schedule. Broad Ripple dropped us, but we picked up Manual from over there, and they've got some length and athleticism. I guess they've got one kid was just maybe a little bit below being on the junior all-star team, and then we're still trying to fill in one more spot. But we're looking at someone like, I told Brent to contact Lawrence North and Martinsville and an old SEC team. And I don't know if Connersville used to play Lawrence North years ago.
We did.
I thought maybe they did.
When Howard Renner was coach, because he had played them when he was at Cathedral, and then we came down and
then the tournament they played them that one year when Odin and Conley were there.
Right. When we were the only non-Indianapolis school in the sectional. But,
and driving by like Anderson and someone else going out to Richmond to play on the way in there. But so we've got one more game we have to fill in, and the other possibilities are Fort Wayne. There's a couple Fort Wayne schools, but I really don't want to travel that far. So if we don't fill that last game in, we're still at 23. We used to play 20. We get 23 now with the Richmond tournament. 24, I guess, actually, if we fill this last game in. So I think we'll have the people you mentioned plus those other people will be another exciting, challenging schedule again for us next year.
Brent Duncan mentioned about Columbus East. I didn't know if that came to fruition or not.
Well, they're one of the other teams for that position. The thing is, they want us to come to their place, and we've got an imbalance in our home and away games.
Okay.
So whoever we pick up, we want to come here to help balance that out. So, and they said, well, they're going to look and see if they can find someone else, and if not, then they'll get back with us. So in the meantime, we're still looking.
Has there been any looking at Western Ohio schools? Eaton, Talawanda, Harrison?
I've thought about it. I've not pursued it. I've not, indicated to Brent to pursue it, but I know Richmond plays a couple of the schools over there.
A Dayton team? Or?
Franklin County plays a couple of them as well, so I wouldn't be opposed to it. Yeah.
Proximity, some of them's closer than going to Indy to play.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, and then the traffic that you get caught up in over there, that's the thing. If we were to go over there, it'd have to be on a Saturday just because, the traffic would be a madhouse on a Friday night. So, the openings on our schedule and then finding someone that's got that date open, that's the challenge. And I know Brent's trying to move around some of our conference games and, he's trying to get Newcastle back on a weekend and things like that. We go to South Dearborn on a Wednesday, our longest trip. We would like to have that on a weekend. Plus, it was during finals week, I think. So there's some things we want to do to tweak our schedule, but it takes two.
You would think that possibly Newcastle would want to move that to a weekend game. Just looking at the crowd that we brought along, that opportunity for them to make some money and for us to make some money when it's at home. And going back to that championship game, Chrysler Fieldhouse, I hadn't seen it that full since the last one-class regional when it was standing room only. It's just a lot of fun, and it harkened back to the days of in the 70s when we would play, and when Kent Benson and Gerald Thomas and those guys when we'd fill either place, and it was fun to bring that back.
I heard a lot of people talking about both Southport and Newcastle, impressed with the crowds that Connorsville took and supported the kids. So, and these were people outside of Connorsville that weren't used to seeing that many people travel and support their teams. So you're right. I think it went back to the old days. Yes. And obviously those of us that are a little bit older remember those, and there's some fond memories. So I agree with you, Sam, completely.
Coach, you mentioned Tyler Billups played in a ball game recently. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Tyler was selected to play in the Hoosier Basketball Coaches Association All-Star game, which was yesterday at Bloomington North High School in Bloomington, Indiana. I went down and watched it. He did real well. He played on basically the HBCA is south of Indianapolis. All the schools south of Indianapolis. So it was the Southwest team against the Southeastern corner of the state.
Okay.
It was probably the best game they've had in all the years they've been doing this since 1970 something. There was, I think they said 10 top 60 participants, kids that were being looked at for the All-Star team that played in the game yesterday. Final score is 131 to 121. Tyler was on the East team, which was beat, but he accounted for himself very well. He had 18 points in the game, made 4 threes in a row in the second quarter. You don't get a lot of touches, and you have to make the most of it, and I thought he did a really good job yesterday.
That was great. Is that the first time we've had a boy participate in that?
Last year, Ty Miller participated in it, and then I'm trying to think if Zach did a few years ago, and my memory's a little bit foggy right now. I'm assuming Zach did, but I can't remember back that far right now for sure if he did. So the last 2 years I know we've had kids participate in it, but this year's game was just listening to some of the coaches was as good probably from a talent standpoint as it's been ever, they were saying.
What was that score again?
131 to 121.
That's an NBA score.
That's what it reminded me of, was the NBA All-Star game, back and forth and up and down, and there's a lot of three-point shots and dunks in the game.
They play by college rules, college timing. And
played 20-minute halves. Nobody fouled out because nobody guarded that closely, I don't think.
So were there officials?
Yeah, there were. Yep, there was a girls' game and a boys' game. officials. It was a regular game, just a lot of getting up and down the floor and shooting and dunking.
Coach, what's the feeder system here at CHS? When do you become involved in the lower grades?
We provide for our 1st through our 12th graders. We consider that our feeder program. We had 2nd through 6th grade teams in an elementary league this winter. We have camp 1 through 1st grade through. We'll have summer workouts with our seniors, our 12th graders. When our season ended, we were in the gym for about 3 weeks with our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Might have been 4 middle school coaches got them going, I think, before I got in there, before our season ended, actually. And that was just a time for us when we weren't working with our high school guys and we were giving them a break, where we can do something with some of the other kids and them get to know us and us get to know them. The older you get, the more we do with you. And obviously, this summer we'll have camp. We'll have a 2-week camp with our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and then we'll have a 1-week camp with our elementary kids. We will play about 16 to 20 games with the middle school kids this summer, just like our freshman, JV, and varsity players. So we do quite a bit with them in the month of June. It's a lot going on, but we just try to provide opportunities for them and develop their skill and attitude and work ethic and take it from there.
You take some trips too, don't you?
We will go play 4 Saturdays, 4 weekend type things with our varsity. Our JV plays in a league on Wednesday nights, and then we'll go to, right now we're going to go to East Central, Milan, Franklin County, Triton Central with our middle schoolers, round robin games, and then we'll go to Hanover to a team camp. So we do a lot with them.
Yes, yes. The Hall of Fame at Newcastle has a game, don't they, Sam and Coach? How do they choose that team? I was hoping maybe, with the Spartans, the way program is going, perhaps we would be.
We were in the running. We were in the running, and I shared it with the boys here just within the last week. Couple of them, I said, we were in consideration. They contacted me and got a tape of ours. They came and watched us twice. We lost both games. I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
Sure.
They also want you to sell so many pre-sale tickets, and it's based on crowd. But I know they have New Albany and Warsaw and Logan Sport. They've got 4 really good teams. I can't think of the 4th team right now. But we were in consideration, and that's, it's nice to be thought about like that with those other really good teams like that.
Sure.
But whatever the final criteria was, we just didn't quite make it. But we were being evaluated.
That was good.
Yeah, it was.
And you're going to play in the Bob Wedding tournament again in Richmond?
We will. You asked about Tyler. We've got a number of kids playing AAU right now. This weekend, I went and watched him on Sunday, and Saturday I watched 4 of our kids play up at Indianapolis and some AAU games, and we've got other ones playing. They just weren't there. So, got a couple kids going out and getting some individual workouts with other people, and then, like I say, we'll start our stuff next week, just twice a week for 5 weeks here between now and into the school year, and get it going.
How much do you want your boys that are playing to be in the training room, and what do you request from them? What do you require?
What I don't want them to do is just go out and play a lot of games and the games just become another game. I want the games to still be special, especially during the season. They play so many games in the off season. We're trying to be careful with that, but again, we're trying to reward them for coming in and working out. When we get in our workouts, we'll go for 90 minutes on the court, and then any kid that's not in the advanced weight training class, we'll ask them to stay for an extra hour. So 2 times a week for the next 5 weeks, we'll be there for a minimum of 90 minutes. If you're in APC, then you can go, and we'll keep those other kids to develop their bodies for an extra hour.
Coach, it's been a pleasure to have you here on the program tonight, and you and your coaches. I know you're teachers, and you're teaching these young people to be good citizens, to grow up to be responsible adults, and I guess that's number one.
That's been one of the really good things. I've had really good kids in the 7 years that I've been here, and yeah, that means a lot.
Coach, again, thanks for joining us here on the Spartan Sports Report. And thanks for watching, everybody, on TV3.